Well, I've got to tell you, I'm not quite sure how much longer I'm going to be here. I'm really and truly afraid for our country. Now, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I'm out there spreading and sharing information because they're not going to stop me no matter what happens. But either way, I have to warn you that the push right now to censor anyone who's out there speaking truth is massive. In fact, suppression is going to be used to convert the entirety of our internet and social media into some kind of propaganda ministry for those people pushing a narrative that they want pushed. And it's a real fear that I have because I want to make sure that you guys are getting the information that you need. And right now, there is a government document that was put together by our House of Representatives. And this document really reveals the level that, even more specifically, not only just the Biden administration, but other Democrat administrations have gone through to censor freedom of thought. And it should be at the very top of our list as far as concerns. And I say that because if you can't get the information and the truth out to people, then they can tell you whatever they want. And slowly but surely, the entirety of, say, the United States of America and even the globe, because they're wanting to do this globally, will be brainwashed into believing whatever narrative they want those people to believe. This is how communist regimes thrive. This is how regimes like China, who have very suppressive governments, and there with Kim Jong-un, this is how they survive. This is how Hitler was able to get a foot in the door because of massive amounts of censorship and the way that they control the media. And this government document that was put together by a committee on the judiciary and it was a U.S. House of Representatives committee that they had put together, and it really details the censorship that is happening to us. And by the way, before I even get into that, I really want to encourage you. This is why I created restrictedrepublic.com. Look, they're trying to censor us into oblivion. This is why I created it, because you can go there and get unbrainwashed. The information you're getting here on YouTube is only free because they get to select what it is that they want you to talk about. It's not true, and it's not all the truth of what's really going on. And that's why I created Restricted Republic, and I'm going to be there as long as I can be spreading truth. And right now, you can get it, and this is an amazing deal for $50 per year. That amounts to about $4.16 per month. Use the coupon code FOREVER50. That's FOREVER50 on the annual rate. But look, go there, get unbrainwashed for less than a cup of coffee per month. I really encourage you to do that. Otherwise, you are going to be far behind what's going on. And if not that platform, make sure you are following someone. But with that, I want to dive into this report that was published by the U.S. House of Representatives. And it was just published February 5th, 2024. But take a look at it here. And this is headline, The Weaponization of the National Science Foundation, How NSF is Funding the Development of Automated Tools to Censor Online Speech at Scale and Trying to Cover Up Its Actions. And this is exactly what is happening. And here's what it says in the summary of the report. And this first quote is a quote by or notes from the University of Michigan, but it says, quote, our misinformation service helps policymakers at platforms who want to ... push responsibility for difficult judgments to someone outside of the company by externalizing the difficult responsibility of censorship. You see how they equate censorship with misinformation? So these are the speaker's notes from the University of Michigan's first pitch to the National Science Foundation about its NSF-funded AI-powered WiseDex tool. It goes on. This interim report details the National Science Foundation, or NSF's, funding of AI-powered censorship and propaganda tools and its repeated efforts to hide its actions to avoid political and media media scrutiny. In the name of combating alleged misinformation regarding COVID and the election, the NSF has been issuing multi-million-dollar grants to universities and nonprofit research teams. The purpose of the taxpayer-funded project is to develop AI, or artificial intelligence-powered censorship and propaganda tools that can be used by governments and big tech to shape public opinion by restricting certain viewpoints or promoting others. This is massive. In other words, you are funding this, and you are funding the government's elimination of certain voices that they don't like. And they have been doing this through other organizations I'll get into in a moment, but now it's our universities that our government is using the NSF to fund. You can see in the little diagram there, the United States government sending it to all these universities and nonprofits. They're creating the tools and they're unleashing for big tech. In other words, government's in charge. They tell us what to do. We send it out, and we get rid of the misinformation, aka censorship. They're going to take on the responsibility of censorship. At least they're labeling what they're doing there. But it goes on to state, non-public documents obtained by the House Judiciary Committee and the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government demonstrate that these federal bureaucrats, disinformation researchers, and nonprofit groups understand that their actions, their content moderation, and combating so-called misinformation amounted to censorship, and yet the NSF forged ahead supporting new technology that would essentially enable the censorship of online speech at scale. They knew it. They knew exactly what they're doing, and they did it anyway. But NSF's taxpayer funding for this potential automated censorship is only half of the story. The committee and the select subcommittee have also obtained, via document request and subpoenas, non-public emails and other documents that reveal a years-long intentional effort by NSF to hide its role in funding these censorship and propaganda tools from media and political scrutiny. They hid it all from you. From legal scholars such as Jonathan Turley to conservative journalists, NSF tracked public criticisms of its work in funding these projects. They went as far as to develop a media strategy that considered blacklisting certain American media outlets because they were scrutinizing NSF's funding of censorship and propaganda tools. This is massive. It goes on to state that the First Amendment prohibits the government from abridging the freedom of speech. Thus, any law or government policy that reduces that freedom on the social media platforms violates the First Amendment. However, they don't care. They did it anyway. And here's some of the stuff, the serious violations that they have found. The Biden White House directly coercing large social media companies such as Facebook to censor real and true information, memes, and satire, eventually leading to Facebook to change its content moderate policies. We knew this regarding the Hunter Biden laptop stuff during COVID and stuff during the election, right? We also have Stanford's Election Integrity Partnership, the EIP. They also used, to, moderate content. And then not only that, but even the FTC was involved in harassing Elon Musk because he dared to buy Twitter, now called X, because he wanted free speech on the platform. These are all violations by our United States government and even specifically the Biden administration. But it goes on to state even more corruption, right? Senior Biden White House officials had to spend time personally berating the social media companies into changing their content moderation policies. Social media executives expended considerable time and effort responding to the White House threats and evaluating the flagged content. Stanford had nearly 100 people working for the EIP in shifts, flagging thousands upon thousands of posts, which are only a fraction of the number of election-related posts made in the fall of 2020. Now, the question is, what happens if the censorship is automated and the censors are machines? Well, we're talking about censorship on a scale that we have yet to ever see before. Because if it's done by machines, and machines can do this in a fraction of the second of what a human can, then we obviously have a really big problem. Now, the rest of it gets into, a lot of other things, talking about this AI-powered censorship tool, how the government has been censoring us, how we are using our taxpayer dollars, and how the NSF is doing this. And it talked about the EIP, by the way, and this is the Election Integrity Partnership. I've talked about this a lot on Restricted Republic, but the EIP has considered, it's consisted of 4 separate organizations. You can see 2 at the bottom there, the Stanford Internet Observatory and the University of Washington Center for an Informed Public, but they also have the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab and also a company called Graphica. But basically, these partners get down to the nitty-gritty of doing work, such as mapping out entire networks of conservatives that they don't like and getting rid of their information and using that to say, hey, these people don't have a favorable view. Let's just get rid of them. And there's lots of organizations, by the way, doing that. We also have this one, the GDI, the Global Disinformation Index, and of course, NewsGuard. And they've all been attacking conservatives consistently. We have a massive problem here in the United States. They only want one side of the story out. And we are literally living in a military rule. We are through online censorship industry. And they're using this new information from the National Science, the NSF, the National Science Foundation, literally giving millions and billions of dollars to these universities to censor our content and create AI machines. And when these AI machines are unleashed, we're in a crap load of trouble. We're talking about websites never being able to be seen, ever, unless you're actually on them and have the direct link. And that's an understatement to the type of stuff that they're wanting to do. We're talking about a full propaganda machine to which controls every aspect over the internet. And they're on fire with this thing. Not to mention, as I brought up before, we have Bill Gates over there in India, literally training 2 million people over in India how to work with AI. And of course, to the benefit of these global tyrannical dictators and to the benefit of the communists who want to rule our country and these globalists who want to usher in climate chaos, unlike we've never seen before. I'm not climate chaos, climate tyranny, unlike we have ever seen before, where everything you do and say is regulated, from your how many trips you can take to how many clothes you can buy to how often you can turn on your AC or heater, even if you can, and what temperature you can set it at, to how often you can use your washing machine, flush your dang toilet, use your leaf blower, what car you can drive, and that's only going to be electrical vehicles if you can afford it. And hey, by the way, if we can lock you within a 15-minute radius, then by golly, we're going to do it. But don't worry, because it's not going to be to the uber elite. This is a hell unlike we've ever seen. And if they control the internet, people, and if they control everything that's said, they've got a capital on information. Where are we going to get our information? That's why the likes of Restricted Republic are so important. And I got to really encourage you, get there, sign up, an amazing deal. Use that coupon code FOREVER50. But anyway, and I want to make this statement again, kind of in conclusion on this thing. Suppression will be used to convert the entirety of the internet and social media into one big fat propaganda ministry, serving only those official narratives that they want you to hear. Like I said, I'm not sure how long I'll be here, but if I'm not here, I'm going to be somewhere. Get to Restricted Republic. Anyhow, I love all of you. Thanks again for listening to me today. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.